Hi friends, welcome to today's video. As you can see, there's a little bit of change in scenery. That is because I'm filming from my bedroom. Today, I wanted to make a little pack with me video. I am attending a conference tomorrow and I'm super excited to go. So I figured I would just kind of talk a little bit about what conferences are, as well as give a little bit of background on what this conference I'm going to is specifically while I pack my stuff. So to start, what exactly even is a conference? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like it is. It's almost like a huge scientific meet and greet. You have a bunch of different scientists studying either the same thing or similar areas of research, and they will come together to discuss points of intersection. You go and you present your research, or you go to listen to other people's findings. Usually there will be kind of keynote speakers who are invited to give really long talks, and usually the keynote speakers are tenured faculty. It can range anywhere between early career scientists, undergrads, all the way to tenured faculty attending these conferences. It's a really good place to network. You can meet other scientists who are working on similar projects to you, and you can bounce ideas off of each other. So if you're stuck in a place in your own research, somebody at the conference might have an idea of where you need to take your project. So that way you can overcome any challenges or difficulties you're facing. Sometimes at these conferences, it's not necessarily just presenting your research. It can be, although sometimes they're kind of workshops, which are meant to assist you in building some career skills. For example, it might be a workshop on how to implement this Python library into your code that someone developed and they want to share it with everyone. So it'll be a little bit of a tutorial, or how to implement machine learning into your work. So some of it is kind of professional career skills, or even kind of career networking. The conference that I'm going to tomorrow is a little bit of both. So I'm going to be presenting some of my own work, as well as attending some workshops. Every conference will have kind of an itinerary listed out with all of the speakers or workshops ahead of time, just so you can kind of plan in advance things that you want to attend. Keep in mind, some of these bigger conferences, you don't have to attend everything because there are a lot of events and it's going to be impossible to attend everything all at the same time. So this conference that I'm going to, it's pretty big. It's the National Diversity Conference for STEM. It's across all STEM fields. So from mathematics to engineering, forensic scientists there. So it's super interesting. The astronomy niche is going to be very, very small, but I'm going to go and represent astronomy the best I can. I'm going to be presenting a poster on my second project I'm working on, and I'm super, super excited. But along the way, I've also signed up for a couple of workshops. One of them is understanding your own personal identities and experiences, and using that to navigate your way through STEM, and using it as a strength rather than as a weakness, especially if you're in an underrepresented minority group, gender, race, sexual orientation. So I'm looking forward to things like that, but not always being super sciencey, but also getting some kind of mentorship in that regard. If you're going to a bit of a smaller conference, specifically around a certain subject, for example, if you watch my video on my conference in Vienna, it was a bit smaller and it's more niche to galaxy simulations. It was specifically only about research. So there was no discussion about, finding your identity in astronomy. It was all science talk, which is fine. But every conference is kind of different. Usually when you're applying for these conferences, you can kind of take a look at the description to get an idea of how the conference is going to go or what it's going to be like. The cool thing about conferences is that they're in pretty cool locations. So as I mentioned before, I was at a conference in Vienna. This conference that I'm going to tomorrow is in Phoenix, Arizona. It's pretty nice because, while you're at this conference, it's an opportunity for you to travel and get to know a new city. So I'm really excited to go to Arizona. I've never been before. I'm looking forward to it because the weather is really nice. It's really warm and sunny, unlike Seattle. So I'm happy to go explore, but that's also part of the fun too. Usually there will be some excursions. For example, my video in Vienna, there was an excursion to go ice skating, as well as go to some museums. It's always fun to share those experiences with the people that you meet while you're there. And it's just great to do things outside of science with the people that you're with. That's another thing that I want to mention is networking. The main point of going to conference conferences is to network. I know that this could be hard for some people. I'm speaking mainly to myself. It can be hard putting yourself out there and like talking to a scientist, you know, that you've read a ton of their papers and you have questions for them. Or, you know, if you're there by yourself and you're an awkward little duck like me and not very good at approaching people. So you're just kind of walking around doing everything by yourself. It can be hard, but trust me, you will get so much more out of the conference if you just talk to people. We are all scientists. We're all kind of awkward and we're all maybe a little bit on the spectrum, but everyone at conferences are usually pretty nice, especially if they see that you're in like a junior state of your career, like, you know, me being a grad student, or if I was an undergrad. The faculty that are there, they understand that. They're typically very nice. You will run into the people that are not. Try to avoid them. Try to ask your supervisors ahead of time if there's anyone you should be aware of. There's usually a list of who's going, but for the most part, everybody's pretty nice. Your conference experience will definitely be enhanced the more you get to like talk to people. So when you're at a conference, you can choose to either present your research or not. If you do choose to present your research, you will either do so in the form of like a talk or a poster. And when you're applying for the conference, months before the conference actually happens, you'll either like sign up for like a presentation slot and you'll let them know like, oh, like, you know, I want to give a talk, and you'll write like a little abstract about what your project is like. And they will either accept you to give a talk. Most of the time they prioritize like faculty to give talks. And if they have a few spots and then they give you a talk, then wonderful. If not, then they'll usually give you a slot to present a poster. You can always just like pick and choose. Like, I want to do a poster, I want to do a talk. This conference, I'm presenting a poster rather than giving talk. So there will be like a little session for me. I will be like standing in front of my little poster and people will come up to me and have comments and address whatever it is that, or say whatever it is that they want to say. And if you're giving like a poster presentation, it's always good to think of an elevator pitch, because there are some people who want to come up to you and they're going to want to listen very in depth about what it is that you're saying. And then you'll have some people who are just kind of like wanting to walk around and kind of stay in the background and only barely read your poster. So what you'll want to do is you'll have a little elevator pitch, one that's like a minute synopsis of your whole research project, and then you'll have another that's in depth, kind of like 10 minutes or so. You can kind of gauge the people that are around, like, does this person want the full thing? You can always ask them, does this person want a full synopsis or not? And then go based off of that. So you'll just kind of be standing there and people will walk around like in and out, and you'll give your talk over and over and over again to different people that are going to attend. If you're giving like an actual talk, then there will be a slot time for you and you'll present all of your work to an audience that's like sitting down in an auditorium hall or a lecture hall, something like that. I think the part that I look forward to the most at conferences is definitely presenting. I know some people get a little bit nervous about presenting, but something that I enjoy about like commanding a room, like everyone is like watching me as if I have something important to say. I mean, my research isn't out here like saving lives or anything, but you know, it's nice to have everyone looking at me for a split of a second, especially because I take my conference outfits very seriously. I hardly ever find myself dressing up for anything, but at conferences, I always try to be the best dressed in the room, because if it's one thing, people are gonna remember you more by like what you wear, especially if you're going to a conference like not doing anything. When I was in Vienna, I presented a poster, but I didn't really like present it, you know? Like, I just hung my poster on a wall, and during like coffee breaks and stuff like that, people would kind of like go around and read them. But I wasn't like actively standing in front of my poster and like presenting, because it was such a small group of people. It's like, whatever. If you want to go read it, then you can. And like, I didn't give a talk either, so nobody could really like recognize me, but your girl was definitely the best dressed. Somebody told me that I was the Elle Woods of the conference, and that was probably the best compliment I've received in my entire life. So I'm trying to like keep up in theme of being best dressed. My conference outfits are going to be for this one. So I go in mind thinking, if nobody's gonna remember me for shit, it's gonna be that I'm the best dressed and I had a really cool project. I also love the idea of like traveling. Recently, I've come to find that I absolutely love travel. I will pretty much be up to go anywhere for a conference for the sake of it being a new city that I haven't explored, because it's nice to like take time to get away from the conference that's so busy and overstimulating for my ADHD, to go like walk around and see where you're at, kind of like talk to locals, get like a nice meal from whatever city you're in that's like authentic to that city that you can't have like back home. If you meet like a nice friend at the conference too, like doing it together, you create bonds and memories that last a lifetime. Plus, it's always nice to have like cool stories to tell. I think easily one of like my favorite conference experiences was my very first conference. It was in New York City. Your girl was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just an undergraduate who has no idea what she's doing or what she's getting herself into. And all of a sudden I'm going to be giving a talk to all of these professionals. Do I have what it takes? And I didn't really talk to anybody at all until like someone approached me and was like, hey, like, do you want to get boba? And I was like, huh? Thinking like everybody there is only going to want to talk like science and like research and like smart people stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like sure. And so we go to get boba and it was a blast. I still keep in contact with all of them that I met. And it's funny enough, they're like close collaborators on my main research project. You know, you never know who you'll meet or you'll run into. And we still bond over boba sometimes, especially like if one of us is in New York. Another good memory is when I was in Vienna. I was petrified to ice skate because I've never ice skated in my entire life, but I love roller skating. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know anybody at this conference. Everyone here is like European. I don't want to look like the dumb American. I met this one person and he was wonderful. He was so lovely. He taught me how to ice skate, introduced me to a couple of other scientists. And I think that really changed my entire conference experience. Because I'm like, all right, I have friends. Like, I can walk in tomorrow morning and be like, oh, hey, like, remember last night when we went ice skating and that one guy got his neck slit open by a blade? Anyways, that was a tragic experience. And I was screaming and yelling like a crazy person trying to get this guy to help. And everyone was looking at me like, what's the problem? I'm like, this guy is bleeding out on the ice and no one cares. Anyway, regardless, it was an experience that we all shared and we bring it up now. Hopefully you guys have better excursion experiences than that. Okay, so I think I'm all done like packing my suitcase here and like all my clothes. So now I'm just have left to pack my bag. I would usually bring a backpack, but I don't know. I just feel like this looks a little bit more like professional and like more my jam than like carrying a backpack. And I also don't really carry that much at conferences anyways. I hope my laptop is gonna fit in here because if it doesn't, that's a problem. I don't think it's gonna fit, y'all. What the hell? Well, anyways, all right, so anything else that I would pack in this bag is probably gonna be like a pencil pouch that I have like extra pens and erasers and stuff. My notebook, I know I'm the type to kind of take handwritten notes because I remember things. That's also another tip that I would advise when you're going to a conference, especially when you want to remember anything that anyone is presenting, especially if it's like related to your area of research and you want to remember it in the future, write things down. People also type up their notes, that's fine, but me, my brain, I need to write things to remember it. Chargers for my phone. I always take a pair of headphones everywhere I go. And also because I'm very, very particular about how I smell and how I come across to people. I always want to smell angelic and memorable. I always want to leave an impression on people. Perfume and body mist for the road, as well as some like good lotion. And I think with that, that is pretty much everything that I want to pack for this video. I will be vlogging my experience at the conference. I'm not quite sure if I want to film the entirety of the time at the conference or if I just want to film like a day. I don't know. I'll decide whenever I get there. So stay tuned for the conference video. I also have another conference specifically for this research project coming up in Japan in December. And just before I go to Japan, I plan on filming kind of like a what my research is about type video. So stay tuned for that. I also have another conference to attend, maybe like 2.5-ish weeks from now. And that is presenting my main research project. And just before I head out for that conference, I'm going to film a video, long awaited, what my research project is about. I'm going to be presenting my conference presentation to like YouTube, almost in layman's terms though, because I don't know who is watching. If you are not like an astronomer, then I don't want to use like terminology that anyone is too unfamiliar with, but like on a very basic sense, I'll be going over my project. For those of you who've been waiting for research videos from me, stay tuned. They're coming very soon, I promise. As usual, thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to give it a like. Go ahead and leave a comment and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. With that being said, I will see you guys in Phoenix, Arizona. Bye.